Hey, what's going on, everybody? Samuel Akem here, and I'm back with another one. I appreciate you guys for tapping into yet another Akem'S analysis. We got some great topics for you guys today. Obviously, I did a short video, on my YouTube channel and my TikTok talking about Montana opting into the House settlement, but we're going to get deeper into that and talk about some of the changes and what does that mean for Montana. As well as maybe some of the other schools in the Big Sky Conference. I'm going to give my Big Sky award picks for the 2025 season. So that's Offensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Newcomer of the Year, and Freshman of the Year. Fair warning, I don't have a great bit of data on a ton of the freshmen in the conference. I feel like, you kind of find out who the big freshmen in the conference are once they emerge. So I'm not going to attack the freshman of the year, but all the other awards, I'll give my take on those and give my reasons why. We're going to talk about the number of schools that opted into the House settlement. It's staggering. Honestly, not that staggering, but it's a lot. We'll talk about the Committee on Legislative Relief and how they have released data on the designated student athletes and what that looks like. And then we're going to do a bit of talking about, what some of these projected numbers at certain FCS schools are looking like. I was reading an article this week talking about UT Chattanooga and what their designated number for basketball, football could be. We'll get into that, because that gives us a little bit of a framework and insight into what the FCS Rev-Share framework may look like. So I want to get into that. And then we're going to talk about Sac State. Despite everything that's going on at Sac State with the FBS waiver denial, with them potentially suing the NCAA, all of the other things that are coming down the line with Sac State, what they have continued to do is hit the recruiting trail and hit the recruiting trail hard and win big in the recruiting trail. There actually was an article released recently talking about, I'll get into that when I get into it, but make sure you guys hit the like, make sure you guys hit the subscribe, make sure you guys leave me a comment down below. We're going to be covering all of this in this week's video. Please make sure you guys tap in, leave me a comment down below of what you guys think, and we will get straight into it. Okay, first things first, I want to talk about Montana opting into the House settlement. I do not want to bury the lead. Obviously, that was the big talk this past week. Obviously, the deadline was Monday of last week. Initially, I had released a video probably midday, probably 1-2 o'clock in the day, mentioning how I hadn't seen any news of Montana opting in. They really kind of kept it hush hush, but obviously all schools can't be on top of knowing all schools can't make it public notice that they're going to opt in. They have to tell the NCAA. They have to tell the rightful people first. They're not 100% necessarily worried about getting the message out to everybody. But it seemed as though Montana might not necessarily miss the deadline. Obviously, they're on top of things, but might not be opting in until next year. And it seemed like it might have been a missed opportunity for Montana, given the opportunity to grandfather in those roster spots. We saw UND change course. We saw North Dakota State change course. We saw South Dakota State change course. Montana State had already mentioned that they were opting in, and South Dakota had already mentioned that they were opting in. It was really seeming like Montana, out of a lot of the high-level MVFC and Big Sky teams, Sac State has opted in. It seemed like Montana might have been missing the ball on this, but I'm guessing 6 days before the deadline is what it was reported as. I found out the day after the deadline that Montana had indeed opted in, and partly because of Brent Wahlberg. Only because of Brent Wahlberg. Brent Wahlberg was really the person who kind of, if you guys don't know Brent Wahlberg, he's part of the Grizz Fan Podcast. He's a great fan of the Grizz, a super fan, and he's a great person, first and foremost, great realtor as well. But he mentioned something in my comment section on that first video I posted saying, hey, if Montana changes course, meaning, I think Brent knew something. Obviously, they have a great relationship with Kent Haslam. He's got a great relationship with the university. And, he mentioned something of, if they change course, if they do end up opting in, are you going to give me credit? And that's the first thing that I saw that kind of made me think, did Montana opt in? Did they change course? And then there was another comment saying Montana did opt in, but I hadn't seen any public notice of them opting in. Later on in that day, good old Grizzlies, the NIL collective for the University of Montana, tweeted basically ushering in a new era of college sports. We're happy to be opting into the House settlement, all of these things. And, then it became what it was. So Montana did opt in. Kent Haslam spoke to Kathleen Deutscher of SWX Nonstop Local, and he mentioned that obviously the grandfathering in of the roster spots was the main thing that they were hung up on, which Kent Haslam, I will give credit where credit is due. Kent Haslam has been consistent on this since opting in or opting out became a discussion. He mentioned how if we opt in this year, a lot of student athletes are going to lose opportunities, and not only does that put those kids in a tough position, but it also would put the coaches in a tough decision to kind of decide who are we going to keep, who are we going to cut. I don't think Kent Haslam was in a space where he wanted to put his coaches and his staffs in that type of position, so he was hesitant to opt in, and I think the whole admin at the University of Montana was hesitant to opt in initially, but there's been more guidance given to these universities, and the designated student athlete tag is what it's being called now. Now, what is a designated student athlete? A designated student athlete is basically somebody who would have been cut say for football. Montana, let's say for example, Montana has 120 football players on their squad. With the new House settlement, the roster limit is now 105 athletes, meaning at the start of the calendar year, you must have 105 student athletes on your roster. It's either at the start of the calendar year or it's the start of the season. I think it's actually the start of the season, which I think would mean at the start of training camp or maybe the start of the first game. I was seeing some language about it a couple of weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago. I can't exactly remember, but I know once you are playing games, you have to be under that roster number. So with that in mind, say you have 120 on the University of Montana football team. 15 of those athletes are going to lose their opportunity to play college ball, at least at the University of Montana, and at least for this year, if they are deemed to be a designated student athlete, meaning that they're going to lose an opportunity. With the designated student athlete tag, which these athletes will keep on them for the remainder of their eligibility in college athletics, a coach now can designate, and this is designated by the coach, this is not designated by the player, so even if a player feels as though they're a designated student athlete, that must be put on you by the coach or the admin or the university. It cannot be put on by the athlete by themselves, but a coach will designate a student athlete, basically meaning I want a grandfather in this roster spot, and that now means that not only can this athlete stay at the University of Montana and maintain their eligibility, and they can still play and be, that's a grandfather in roster spot, but they also have the ability to transfer away between July 7th and August 5th, so starting tomorrow, Monday, July 7th, athletes can transfer, designated student athletes can transfer, and they have until August 5th. And, this is a one-time transfer window that is open, and I think this is the one time that designated student athletes are going to be a thing, hopefully, because, they're not going to get the opportunity to designate student athletes in years to come. Also, a lot of this, I guess schools can opt in and opt out. Most schools are opted in right now. But yeah, the designated student athlete tag is what they added in. That's that grandfathered in student athlete. Those are those grandfathered in student athletes, and they will keep that tag for the remainder of their college career. But I think it was awesome that Kent Haslam and the University of Montana admin were able to see what was going on. I do appreciate the fact that they were very patient. A lot of schools with the opt-in, opt-out opportunity, a lot of schools opted in early. A lot of schools opted in around February, March, April, around that time. There was a different deadline originally, so I think a lot of schools were working off that original deadline. I think the original deadline was in June. They pushed it back to July 1, but I think it was originally like early June, maybe late May. But yeah, the roster caps obviously was something that Ken Haslam didn't want to mandate on his coaches. He didn't want to push, he didn't want to put anybody in that position. It's a tough position to put people in, but it's also an interesting landscape that we're in right now. There's a lot going on in the sport. There's a lot going on in athletics, and with all the changes, sometimes it can be hard to field what to do, what not to do. I also know this is summertime for these ADs, a summertime for a lot of these admins. So although there's a lot going on in college sports, a lot of these ADs are still trying to take their time off. A lot of these ADs are still trying to spend time with their families. So Montana is opting in. We will see what that means going forward for the University of Montana. I also do think it's interesting. Montana has opened up they're announcing the creation of the Grizzly Football Players Association, and they said in their post, our goal is to connect Grizz players from all generations and encourage continued brotherhood beyond the gridiron. We aim to be a source of support, strength, pride for the program. Go Grizz. Now, when you hear Players Association, you think, I think of NFLPA, UFLPA, I think of things like that, the NBAPA. So when I think Players Association, I think now that we're moving into the House settlement, now that we're moving into not necessarily a collective bargaining agreement era, but I think it mirrors that. I don't know if there's necessarily a CBA that players are involved in securing and making the law in college sports, but I think we are moving into an era where these players need people that are arguing and are on their side. Obviously these coaches, these universities are going to work and deal the numbers in a way that they feel is fair for the university and makes the most sense for the university. But in turn, then, who is arguing in the best interest of these players? Obviously, at the end of the day, these universities have the players' best interest in mind. They want the best for these guys. They want these guys to be successful. But at the end of the day, also, they do have a bottom line. They have a budget. They have all of these things that they have to. Now, I don't 100% know if the Grizzly Football Players Association is going to fit this billing of a entity that's going to protect the players in terms of negotiations with contracts, in terms of what those contracts can be, how they can be structured, how much money is going to be divvied to a football team, all of that good stuff. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Now, I will say this about Montana opting in with the House settlement. As you know, a lot of these schools have been talking about percentages of, basketball is going to get this, football is going to get this entity is going to get this. When you think about the University of Montana and you think about the football program, they bring in a tremendous amount of money to the university. In terms of revenue generating sports, Montana is one of the few and the main revenue generating sport at the University of Montana. They bring in a ton of money for the university. They fund a lot of athletics. And if we're talking about divvying up the revenue share funds evenly, I don't know what the percentages breakdowns should be, and I don't want to disrespect anybody, but Montana football should get a large portion of the breakdown. You see a lot of these basketball schools, they're doing more like basketball will get 50%. I don't know. Basketball will get 40%. Football will get 50%. The rest of the 10% is going to the all other sports. I mean, if we're talking about a model that mirrors a lot of those schools, football at the University of Montana should definitely get 50 to 60%. If I'm being honest, at least 50%. At least 50% 50 to 60% seems fair to me, and I think you divvy the rest up with all the other sports. I think men's and women's basketball at the University of Montana is going to get a healthy portion of that as well. Like, for example, if football at the University of Montana is going to get 50, basketball, men's basketball in particular should probably get 20. Women's basketball should probably get 10 to 15%. And then what are we at? 35% maximum right there. So then we're at 85%. The rest of the 15% can go to the other sports of the University of Montana. But obviously that's for Kent Haslam. That's for all that's for all the head coaches and, everybody in that admin, Gene Gee, all of them in the University of Montana. That's for them to figure out. And, that's their problem to solve. But there's a lot of good changes going on at the University of Montana. I hope that the Grizzly Football Players Association is going to release more information, obviously because I am an alum, so I would love to know about what the Grizzly Football Players Association is going to be. And potentially, if I can be any help, I would love to be a help and be able to help, be a part of the solution if I can. But, it's very exciting that Montana's opting in. They joined Montana State, North Dakota State, South Dakota, and North Dakota all in opting in. Those are some of the big schools that I know of. Obviously, Sac State has opted in as well. There's a number saying that a total of 319 D1 schools opted in. That's 82% of the D1 schools. I don't know what other Big Sky schools ended up opting in. A lot of times, obviously Sam Herder, who's the great Sam Herder, great reporter, journalist at the FCS level for Hero Sports, he does a good job of reporting what schools. He's in a lot of these AD's ear. He's in the conversation with a lot of these guys, and he's able to get a lot of this information. He just got married, I'm pretty sure, and he's been on time off, so he hasn't been talking about a lot of the schools that have opted in. But Montana opted in. This is exciting. You guys let me know in the comments what you guys think about Montana opting in. One more thing I want to say about Montana opting in. Kent Haslam admitted that it was chaotic at the end, kind of talking about how it was chaotic at the end. I think he was meaning, in terms of, are we going to opt in? Are we going to not opt in? The timing of everything, like I mentioned, with it being summer, I think was also weird. You got a lot of information out here. It's hard to disseminate it's hard to get through what you should follow and what you shouldn't follow. But I think in the end, Kent ended up making the right decision. The University of Montana ended up making the right decision. And, he said he's happy about not opting in so quick. He's happy that they waited. He's happy that they were patient. I'm also happy that they were patient also, because imagine if they opted in and the designated student athlete wasn't necessarily a thing. They would have opted in and been locked in for potential changes that maybe they couldn't field. I think one thing that they were doing with waiting to opt in is making sure that they can field it, make sure that they have a revenue stream. But I think also making sure that those roster spots. He keeps mentioning the roster spots. He's mentioned it over and over again, and I don't want to gloss over that. So you guys let me know in the comments what you guys think about that. I think it's awesome that Montana's opting in. I'm excited to see what this is going to look like. Now, also, I know I keep trying to end this segment, but I keep thinking of other things. Remember, with opting into the house settlement, at least based on what the university, I keep basing it off of what Montana State said in their FAQ. It was kind of like an FAQ. It was like, they were giving people answers to some of the questions they may have with Montana State opting in. And one thing they mentioned was that just because a school has opted in does not mean they have to share revenue. That is just a piece of the house settlement that can happen with the new with this new landscape, but I don't think these universities have to share their revenue. So that is an option. You have that possibility, but I don't think that's a foregone conclusion. Now, NIL is still a thing. Regardless of opting in or opting out, NIL Go is still a thing. So no matter if a school is opted in or opted out, these schools still have to, any third-party NIL deal that comes from a third-party business outside of the university, outside of this Rev-Share money, that has to be reported to NIL Go. So anything over $600 needs to go through NIL Go to see if it's a fair market value deal, to see if the deliverables can be handled and all of that good stuff, and make sure that everything makes sense. So we will see what that looks like. But you guys let me know in the comments what you think about this, and I will move on. Okay, I want to talk about my Big Sky Award picks for the 2025 season. I don't think any of these will surprise you. Maybe some of these will surprise you. In all transparency, I do have some Sac State picks on here. So first things first, Coach of the Year in the Big Sky Conference. I have high hopes for this university. I have talked a ton about this university. If you hear that, you know who I'm gonna say. Brennan Marion is my preseason pick for Big Sky Coach of the Year. I love the talent they've been bringing in. I love what he's been doing at Sac State. Obviously, I'm a fan of his offense. Defense, I think, will be the question mark for them, as it was last year. We'll see how they're able to do. But, a friend of mine told me that I've leaned heavily on the talent that Sac State has got, and I haven't focused so much on the head coaching and the assistant coaches and how they're going to make that squad build, which is fair. But I think based on the talent that they've been able to bring to Sac State, I think in this year playing in the Big Sky, I think they're going to be able to do some damage. So Brennan Marion is my preseason pick for Coach of the Year in the Big Sky Conference. And if he's getting Coach of the Year, I got to guess they're going to be second to first best team in the Big Sky Conference in the running for the Big Sky Conference title. So I think you know where my head is at with everything. With Offensive Player of the Year, my preseason pick, obviously, I got Eli Gilman. I have an or pick, an either or pick. So I got Eli Gilman out of the University of Montana, or I got Jamar Curtis out of Sac State. So Jamar Curtis, former Lafayette running back, former All-American running back, transferred to Sac State this offseason, where he's hoping to make a big splash in the Big Sky Conference. He's been playing in the Patriot League, which is, kind of competitive, not super competitive. They weren't super good in the Patriot League last year. I don't think they had a super good team. They returned their quarterback and they returned their running back. I think outside of that, they lost a ton of talent at Lafayette. Also, that Patriot League is primarily run by Holy Cross, and there's another school in there that I'm blanking on. Anyway, Eli Gilman or Jamar Curtis. Obviously, I think the thing with getting Eli Gilman the Offensive Player of the Year award is he needs more than 15 to 20 carries a game. If Eli Gilman can turn into a back that gets 20-plus carries a game, I think there's no question that he's in the running, the top 3, top 5 for Offensive Player of the Year. Jamar Curtis, we will see what that looks like for him. Obviously, he's super explosive and he can do what he does. But I think these are really your two picks for Offensive Player of the Year in the Big Sky Conference. I would lean more towards Eli Gilman, but I don't know what type of share of the carries he's going to get, because Eli Gilman, obviously, last year he was sharing carries with Nick Osmo. Still was able to get over 1,000 yards. I think Nick Osmo was close to 600 to 700 yards last year. So 1,700 yards out of 2 running backs right there. I think Eli had like 1,100. But we will see. Are they going to be making him the bell cow back? Or are they still going to be maintaining that they want to kind of save him, save his legs, save his body for later on in the season? I would hope that they're, kind of leaning on Eli and giving him those carries, kind of giving him the ball early and often. But we'll see. Jamar Curtis is my other pick. So Eli Gilman or Jamar Curtis is my pick for Offensive Player of the Year. I was trying to look at the quarterbacks, and let me explain a little bit further on this Offensive Player of the Year pick. I was trying to look at the quarterbacks, and I thought about Ty Pennington, but I don't necessarily think Ty Pennington is the type of quarterback to put up astronomical numbers, but I also don't think he plays in the type of system that gives him that type of ability to really go crazy like that. And I don't know if he has the type of weapons that promote an offensive player of the year type quarterback. You look at some of the other quarterbacks. Josh Wood was a potential pick for me out of Idaho, but we don't even know if he's going to be the starting quarterback. You don't know who Montana's quarterback is. You don't know who Montana State's. I think it's Chance Wilson at Montana State, maybe Lamson. I think it's probably a toss-up between Chance and Lamson. I would say they start with Chance and Lamson maybe comes in. I don't know. So it's hard to tell from the quarterback standpoint who you would want for your offensive player of the year. Even from a receiver standpoint, there's not a ton of top receivers returning to the conference. You got Samuel Batu at UC Davis. You got Michael Briscoe at Cal Poly. But even those two guys were not like their name wasn't necessarily, maybe Batu at UC Davis, but Michael Briscoe, a lot of people in the Big Sky Conference probably don't know of his name. He had a good season last year. He led the conference, I believe, in yards per catch when I did my data. I think he had like 21, 22 yards per catch. But outside of that, you wouldn't really know him. If you've looked at the Big Sky Media Day list, you'd know him from that standpoint. But outside of that, not a lot of people know him. So looking at Offensive Player of the Year, it was a little tough. But I landed on Eli Gilman or Jamar Curtis. You guys let me know what you guys think about that. Next, we got Defensive Player of the Year. It was one pick and one pick only for my preseason pick for Defensive Player of the Year. And my pick was Rex Connors out of UC Davis. He was one of the leading tacklers out of the conference last year. He's a phenomenal safety. He's been multiple-time All-American, I believe, multiple-time All-Conference. I know he's been an All-American. I don't know if he's been multiple-time All-American, but I know he's been an All-American. He's been All-Conference. He's one of the best players in the conference. He is returning to UC Davis. Him and his brother, I believe they're twins, are both coming back to UC Davis, and I just think he's got it, man. He comes down and makes plays in the run game. He also is able to make plays in the passing game and get interceptions, and he's always in the right place at the right time. I think he's a very good player, and I think if you're talking about a preseason pick, it's somebody who's had a lot of success in the conference previously, and I think that Rex Connors is fitting of that. So we'll see what Rex Connors is able to do, but that's my pick for Defensive Player of the Year out of UC Davis. Newcomer of the Year is once again going to be Jamar Curtis, because obviously if Jamar Curtis is winning Offensive Player of the Year, he's also going to win Newcomer of the Year. I think there could be a whole boatload of players at Sac State that could win Newcomer of the Year, but when I think of somebody who could potentially have a really big year, you think about that go-go system, a lot of triple option type plays. Jamar Curtis could really, really thrive in that system. They had some really good running backs at UNLV that looked really good, and Jamar Curtis looked similar to some of the guys that they had at UNLV. So he is my pick for Newcomer of the Year. I try to think about a lot of the newcomers in the conference. Another one I landed on was maybe Joshua Wood, new quarterback. I think he could have a big year at Idaho, depending on what they look like. He could definitely be the Newcomer of the Year. A lot of times when you think of Newcomer of the Year, I think of quarterbacks, because a lot of times I see quarterbacks win it. I can't remember. I think Logan Fife actually won it last year, a quarterback at the University of Montana. So when you think of newcomers, you think of obviously transfer portal guys. I don't think freshmen win it, because a freshman win Freshman of the Year, not Newcomer of the Year. So you're thinking of the transfers, the guys who just got to the conference. And there's a lot of those at the FCS level, but we will see. That's another one where I feel like, you don't really know. Obviously, you're following the transfers, and you can follow their career where they were previously. But sometimes, a lot of these transfers may not have done anything at their previous spot. So when they get to the university, or when they get to the Big Sky, this is their first time of getting big playing time and putting up big stats. So I think that's similar to the Freshman of the Year, where it's like you don't know until you know. You don't know who the Newcomer of the Year is until you know. Because I don't think anybody preseason last year was picking Logan Fife to be Newcomer of the Year, but he was Newcomer of the Year. And actually, I'm starting to not doubt that it was Logan Fife, but I just want to make sure I'm right with my pick, because it might have been somebody else. Football. Hang in there with me. Okay, Newcomer of the Year. No, it was Ty Pennington. I'm wrong. I knew it. Not I didn't know it, because I was sounding so confident with it. So Ty Pennington, another quarterback out of NAU. So I was right. It was a quarterback. It wasn't Logan Fife. It was Ty Pennington. I wonder why Logan Fife didn't win it. I mean, Ty Pennington did take his team to the playoffs, but technically Logan Fife kind of did take his team to the playoffs too. Either way, Newcomer of the Year is usually a quarterback, so I don't know necessarily if Jamar Curtis is going to get it. I could see Joshua Wood getting it. I don't know who Eastern Washington. They're probably going to have Taylor. Is it? Gosh, I'm blanking on his name. I'm terrible with names right now, but we will see. You guys let me know what you guys think about my preseason picks. We got Brennan Marion as Coach of the Year. I got Eli Gilman or Jamar Curtis as Offensive Player of the Year. I got Rex Connors as Defensive Player of the Year. And I have Jamar Curtis as Newcomer of the Year. You guys let me know what you guys think about these picks. No Freshman of the Year. You guys let me know what you guys think about that down below, and I will move on. Okay, so I briefly mentioned this stat a minute ago. I didn't get into it a ton, but a total of 319 NCAA D1 schools chose to opt into the House settlement for the 2025-2026 academic year. Sources tell Yahoo Sports. That's 82% of the D1 institutions. So I think there's like 130 at each around like 130 at each level, FCS and FBS D1. 319, 82%. The deadline to opt in for this year was last Monday, June 30th. Going forward, schools must decide by March if they are opting in for the next year. So after this year, schools have a deadline of March. So that's like 2 months after the season concludes that they have an opportunity, that being the national championship, that they have an opportunity to opt in. Those opting out of the settlement are not permitted to directly share revenue with athletes, but are required to adhere to the new roster limits. Wait, those opting out of the House of the settlement are not permitted to directly share revenue with athletes, but are not required to adhere to roster limits. So they're on one hand, they're not permitted to revenue share, but also they're not, they don't have to adhere to the roster limits. The way that was worded was weird. However, their athletes are still required to submit third-party NIL deals through the NIL Go clearinghouse, per Ross Dellinger. So 319 schools, I think that's a tremendous amount. I think that's a big number. And I think, a lot more schools opted in than we know of. Obviously, I think the big schools caught the headlines. I'm talking about the FCS level: SDSU, UND, South Dakota State, or I already said South Dakota State, North Dakota State, Montana State, Sac State, some of those big schools at the FCS level, they caught the headlines when they opted in. But as you can see, a ton of schools opted in. I would venture to guess probably more in the Big Sky than we know of. I don't want to speculate on who, but I feel like more schools than we know of opted in, and even in the Big Sky Conference opted in than we know of. I wish we could get an extensive list of who all opted in, but I think it's amazing. I think it's not very surprising that, despite opting in or not, these athletes are still required to put their NIL deals through NIL Go. Obviously that's the new clearinghouse, so it doesn't matter whether you're opted in or not. That's the new, that's the new enforcement arm. That's part of the new enforcement arm. So CSC, the College Sports Commission, is the new enforcement arm of college athletics, and with that, NIL Go is the new clearinghouse for NIL deals outside of the university. So with Rev-Share becoming a thing, a lot of these universities now being able to be a third party in these NIL dealings, you also have to make a platform to where people can submit these deals, these third-party deals, and see if they're able to get them across the finish line. So NIL Go, regardless of the school, is going to be fielding these deals. And reminder that Deloitte, the company who's running NIL Go, they mentioned they were doing some numbers when they were looking at, people opting in and not opting in, and they mentioned that I think it was 70% of the deals that were submitted by third parties would have been denied. I can't remember exactly what is it. It was like third parties, but it was like 70% of the deals that had been accepted would have been denied, and it was like 90% of the deals for certain company for like it was something about companies and third parties. I have to go back up in my notes and see where I had put that at, but I think it just gives you the framework to say that, there's a lot going on. And there's a lot of changes going on in college sports. I'm trying to see if I can find that number. The number, I'm probably not going to. Oh, yeah. Okay, 70% of past deals from Booster Collective. So basically these NIL collectives, 70% of the past deals from Booster Collectives would have been denied. 90% of the deals from public companies would have been approved. So basically these public companies know what they can pay in terms of fair market value. They're kind of really researching what fair market value for these athletes is, because these companies can't just pay out any number. These collectives are doing what's best for the universities. I know I had a whole spiel about this, so I'm not going to go back into it. If you watched it, you can watch it. That would have been a few weeks ago. But if you guys want to go hear that rant, that was a great rant. I had a good laugh about that. But man, a total of 319 schools opted into the House settlement. I think that is massive. I think that is big time. And we'll see. It becomes less of an advantage for a lot of these schools when everybody's playing on the same playing field. That was part of the reason the Big Sky set their scholarship cap still. Although there's a roster cap, there's still a scholarship cap in the Big Sky Conference. And I think some of these things are done to maintain the competitive balance, because some of these schools can't necessarily opt in, even with the grandfathered in roster spots. I think there are still a few schools that can't afford to opt in. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if afford is the right word, because you don't necessarily have to revenue share with opting in, but we'll see. You guys let me know what you guys think about NIL Go. What do you guys think about the number of schools opting into the House settlement? Do you guys think it says something, or is it just good data to have? You guys let me know down below, and I will move on. Okay, this is what I really wanted to talk about. The projected financial distribution in Rev-Share for the University of Tennessee Chattanooga. So this is a school, UTC, I believe, plays in the SoCon, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just check my data. Tennessee, I believe that, yeah, Southern Conference. I know my shit. Anyway, so they play in the Southern Conference. I'm not sure how many schools out of the Southern Conference opted into the House settlement. I haven't seen a lot of SoCon data about schools opting in or opting out. I think Furman mentioned that they're opting out. I think I talked about that earlier in the year. Anyway, the University of Chattanooga can provide up to $4.8 million in revenue sharing, with roughly $2.66 million going to men's basketball. We'll do the math on that in a second. $2.66 million going to basketball, $1.31 million to football, $485,000 to women's basketball, and $350,000 to other sports. Not every Division I school will reach that $4.8 million cap or even come close. Those percentages are pretty on target, but that $4.8 million is really high at our level, UTC Athletic Director Mark Wharton said Tuesday afternoon. What will other FCS schools be able to provide for their athletics? I think that's a question I put on there, but it's a valuable question to ask, because one thing I wanted to know is, where does that 4.8 million number come from? Because obviously, don't these universities, isn't with the House settlement, at least at the P4 level, don't these schools have the ability to revenue share like 16 to 20 million? Isn't it somewhere up there? So where does that 4.8 million come from? But then let's do the math on 4.8 million. My thing just closed out. 4.8. Let's just do 4.8 divided by, I think I'm doing this wrong, 2.6 divided by 4.8. 55% is going to men's basketball. Let's do 1.3 divided by 4.8. 1.31 divided by 4.8. Almost 27%. 27% is going to football. And then women's basketball, I got to do the full number. 485,000 divided by 4.8 million equals 10%. That's kind of right around the numbers I said for the University of Montana. I would have obviously had football and men's basketball switched. I think men's basketball is bigger at Tennessee Chattanooga than, at Montana. But I think this is the framework you're kind of looking for, 1.3 million. So I think I actually did that math when I first saw this. And let's say, for example, they have 1.3 million. Let's say they evenly distribute that 1.3 million between their 105 roster. That would mean each athlete is getting $12,380. That is, I think, good money for athletes, but obviously not everybody's going to get that. Some people are going to get less than that. Some people are going to get more than that. I would like to know what the base athletes are going to make. Like, if I'm not getting anything, I'm just on the team, what is the rev share number that I'm getting? I would say, athletes are probably going to be around 5 to 6 at a lot of these FCS schools. I don't 100% know, but what are the highest bit? Like, what is the starting quarterback going to get? What is the starting running back going to get? What is their All-American left tackle get? I mean, these are positions that mean a lot to success at any level of football. Linemen, quarterback, running backs. I mean, what are these guys going to get? Especially if you have 1.3 million to pay, that is what you have to share for the entire year. So let's say, for example, you're paying your quarterback $100,000. That means now you have 1.2 million to share because your quarterback's making 100,000. But I mean, I guess it has to be on like a percentage basis, right? Like, because everybody's going to be making this base. So let's say we put everybody at a 5,000 base. 5,000 base, let's times that by 105. That's 525,000 gone. So let's take 525 minus 1.31 million. And obviously we're just using UT Chattanooga's numbers, but 525,000. That leaves you 785,000. So if everybody's making 5,000 on the team, that leaves you with 785,000, given UT Chattanooga's numbers. These are UT Chattanooga's numbers, the projected Rev-Share distribution numbers. If everybody's making 5,000 base Rev-Share, and that's honestly for the year, which if you're making that means you make 2,500 in the first semester, 2,500 in the second semester. That's your Rev-Share for the year. Now we got 785,000 to share with everybody at base level is making 5,000. Now let's add in, let's say our starting quarterback needs to make 100,000, so he's making 105. Let's take 100,000 out of that. Actually, let's go back to that number. Sorry. Let's minus 100,000 out of that. Now we got 685. That's our quarterback. Our running back, he's got to make 65, 70. Let's say our running back's making 65 on the low end, 65,000. So that means he'd make a whole total of 70 with the 5,000 that he's getting out of base. That's 620 left. We got a really good left tackle. Our left tackle, running back's making 65, quarterback's making 100. I think the starting left tackle should probably make 65, 50 cents. Actually, in the league, linemen make more than running backs. Let's make it equal. Let's go 65 for our starting left tackle, who's a two-time All-American. He's a senior this year. He stayed true to the program. We got 555,000 left. We've paid our quarterback, we paid our running back, and we paid our left tackle. Who is next? Our legacy senior. I'm thinking. Let's not even use Montana. Let's just use a blanket university. We have a really good starting linebacker. What is a linebacker worth at college football? Our quarterback is making 100. Our left tackle is making 65. Our starting running back is making 65. All are getting a $5,000 base. But honestly, anyway, let's see what else. Linebacker. We got a starting linebacker. No. We got a corner. We got a corner who locks down and nothing gets past him. I think a corner at 50,000 for the year at the FCS level, that seems good to me. So let's go back to that 55 number. Let's minus 50,000 out of that. Now we got 505 left. We still got to pay our safety. We got a safety. Led the team in tackles, had 5 interceptions, was top 5 in the conference in interceptions. What should a safety make? A safety corner, we just paid our corner 50,000. Let's play a safety. Let's go 40,000. Let's take 40,000 out of the number, the math we just did. I keep forgetting to do the subtraction sign. 40,000. Okay, now we got 465. We got another lineman. He's not our left tackle. He's not a multiple-time all-conference. He was third team. He's not multiple-time All-American. He was third team all-conference. Let's play our right tackle. Let's give him 35. 35. Okay, 430 left. We've paid two linemen. We paid a quarterback. We paid a running back. We paid a safety. And we paid a cornerback. We still got a lot of positions to fill, and we got 430,000 left out of 1.31 million. We got a receiver. We got a star receiver. All conference, all American, projected draft pick. Our running back is making 65. Our best receiver on our team, don't call me biased, but he's got to make at least 70. If our starting running back's making 65, we got to get 70 for the receiver, for the All-American receiver. 70. Okay, now we're at 360. Now, and I could be doing these numbers completely wrong. I could be doing this math completely wrong. Please call me out in the comments if you think I'm doing the projections wrong. We got 360 left. We have a receiver. We have a quarterback. We have a running back. We have 2 linemen. That's 5 pieces on offense. The other pieces, we'll fill them in with the rest of this 360. We got a corner. We got a safety. We need a D tackle. We got a high-level D tackle. D tackle should definitely be making the same as a starting offensive tackle. So we're going to get a D tackle, a nose, an Alex Gubner type for you Montana fans. We're going to get an Alex Gubner type who's going to wreck shop in the middle of that defense. He's going to be the reason that we're very good up front. We're very good in the run game. Who do we get? How much do we pay him? We're going to pay him 65. Same as the offensive lineman, same as the running back. A little less than the receiver, but $65,000. So we're paying our starting D tackle $65,000. If you want to call it a pass rusher, maybe we got a pass rusher, somebody to come off the edge and wreck shop that way, or maybe we get both. So we pay $65,000 to the starting D tackle. Now we got $295,000. Now we got an edge rusher, maybe a linebacker, edge rusher. We're in a 3-4 system of edge linebacker type guy. We got to pay him 65 to 70 as well. I'm honestly going to say 70 for the edge rusher, linebacker, the staple of this defense, one of the staples of this defense. He's making 70. So we're going to deduct that from the 295 that we had left. Now we're at 225. So what do we have? D tackle, linebacker, edge rusher. We got a safety, we got a corner, 4 pieces on defense, and we got 2 linemen, a quarterback, a running back, and a receiver. 5 pieces on offense. 5, that's 9 big-time pieces on your team that you've paid for. Now we have $225,000 left, so we can divvy that up to another lineman, maybe another receiver. Maybe we can bring some more linebackers in there. I mean, I don't know, but, doing these numbers right now with the UT Chattanooga data, which says they have $1.31 million for football, it seems like we can make it work. Now, obviously, the highest paid on this team right now is $100,000. That's your quarterback, which it should be your quarterback. But also, with the Rev-Share numbers and with a lot of these guys being already at these universities, you want to make sure your guy is worth that number. Like $100,000 being paid to an FCS quarterback is obviously the high number. I think that is for the Tommy Malotts. That is for the Cam Millers. That is for the Aiden Bowmans at South Dakota. Although he hasn't won a national championship or been to a national championship, his team won the conference first off in Aiden Bowman, and his team went to the semifinals. I think it's for maybe even a Miles Hastings can get 90, 100,000 at UC Davis. Now I don't know if everybody's numbers are going to look like this, but I just think it's awesome that we have kind of a framework to see what some of these FCS schools may be dealing with, and $4.8 million, close to $5 million in Rev-Share for UT Chattanooga. I don't know if any Big Sky schools can match that. I don't know if any Missouri Valley schools can match that, but I think a lot of these schools are doing these numbers. They see where the money is going, they see where the money is coming, and they see that they need certain numbers have to make sense for these. I mean, because I think what's causing so many players at the FCS level to leave so fast and so rapidly is because it's nowhere near that. I don't think the numbers, and I think a lot of people understand, like, the numbers at the FCS currently are not near where it could be with the Rev-Share. So I think this could be something that potentially could keep a lot of kids at their universities, because you're going to get these numbers from these FBS schools that say, oh, we'll pay you $300,000. But it's like, first off, that's incentive based, so it's only contingent on you playing. But also, it's like, you have a guaranteed 70, 60, 50 at your FCS school. Why not just stay with that? You can also get third-party NIL deals, which I think is big time for the FCS schools, because if we can pay this kid this amount in Rev-Share, and then we can have our collective come in over the top and promise him enough. So say we can only pay you 50 through Rev-Share, through the university. We can only pay you 50, but our collective will then come in and pay you another 50 in third-party NIL deals. That gets you to 100. This FBS school was offering you 150, 200. I mean, you might as well stay here where you got a bird in the hand instead of one in the bush, That's just my thought. But I think this is really cool. $225,000 was what we had left after we paid 4 players on defense. We paid 5 players on offense. Now, obviously, I'm not an accountant. I'm not a business AD. I'm not a general manager. I'm not doing these numbers on the daily. But I think that starts to carve out a framework for what it could look like at FCS football. And you guys let me know. I think those numbers seem pretty fair. Quarterback making 100, linemen making 60, running backs making 60. Maybe running backs might be making less. We'll see. You know how they do running backs in the NFL. Will that trend follow in college? It's starting to reverse a little bit in the NFL. But receivers, making 70. Now, obviously, I might be on the high end. Coaches, admin, GMs, or general managers, I'm sure they're thinking smaller than me. They're probably not even thinking about the numbers that I was thinking about. They might be thinking our quarterback is going to make 50 max. Everybody, and that'll leave money, but I don't know. I think that's where the potential Grizzly Football Players Association might come into play. Is like, if we're only paying 50 to our quarterback, but he just took us to a national championship, he just won us the conference, he just won the Walter Payton. I mean, I think people might want him to get more, and if you have the ability to pay more, I don't know. So it's going to be very interesting. I think it's an exciting time in college football. I'm excited to see how schools are able to do the gymnastics with their money, do the gymnastics with the budget, with the books. I'm excited to see how teams are able to use this at their advantage. You guys let me know what you guys think down below. Let me know what you guys think about the numbers that I did. You guys think that seems fair? You guys think I was on the high end? Do you guys think I'm completely ludicrous and have no idea what I'm talking about? You guys let me know in the comments down below, and I will move on. Okay, and then last but certainly not least, I want to get into Sacramento State, who pulled off a recruiting stunner per on 3. Sac State pulls off a recruiting. Actually, I don't think this was per on 3. I don't have who this was by on here, but Sacramento State pulls off a recruiting stunner, loading a commitment from 4-star wide receiver Xavier McDonald, number 58 on the 2026 ESPN 300. So this is a big time recruit. Now, obviously, he's a junior, going to be a senior this next fall, and he still has a season to play. He could go off. People could offer him, and obviously this is me wishing bad on Sac, not necessarily wishing bad on them, but just trying to see the full scope of things that could happen. I think this is really, really big time for Brennan Marion and Sac State. This is amazing. Hopefully nothing changes is what I was trying to say, is like, hopefully this next year he stays committed to Sac State and ends up signing to the University of Sacramento's Cal State Sacramento. But this is a big time recruit for them, and they've been doing this a lot in the recruiting trail. They currently have the number 1 2026 recruiting class in the Big Sky. Idaho's at number 2, UC Davis is at number 3 per 247 Sports, and they have the number 56th ranked class in the country, ahead of Boise State, Iowa State, and Nebraska, along with a ton of other big schools. But like, they're out recruiting Boise State, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Nebraska, like some big time Big 10, Big 12, SEC school. Actually, not any SEC on there. I actually think there was no I didn't see if there was necessarily any SEC schools below them. There was one SEC school at 55. I think it was Mississippi State that was right above them. But I mean, even they're in the conversation with one of the top recruiting classes in the country. Not top. They're top 60, top 75. But I mean, for an FCS school to be up there, this is massive. I'm not trying to like bloviate or anything. I'm not trying to be like too much, but they have done a really, really good job recruiting, and I think Brennan Marion is starting to shape out the future for Sac State. Now, there's a lot of questions to be had about the recruiting at Sac State, not because of the success that they've had, but it's like, what is the reason for the success? Because Sac State has been here. Sac State has had, a decently successful program in the last 5 to 10 years. They haven't been the stinker that they were this last year, and they did have a stinker last year. So it kind of makes you think, what is causing all of these players to go there? The committed NIL funds. I think a lot of these because you think about this Xavier McDonald kid, they said he chose Sac State over I know it was for sure Ole Miss. I think it might have been Auburn, LSU, like some big SEC programs. He chose Sac State over. It has to be the money. Oh, yeah, it says it right here. McDonald's is the highest ranked pledge in program history. The Hornets beat LSU, North Carolina, Ole Miss to the ESPN's number 8 wide receiver prospect. How? That's my question. How? Is it the money? Is it the future with potentially going to FBS? I mean, is it the potential of them maybe getting a Pac-12 in Missouri Mountain West? I mean, but why would you choose Pac-12 Mountain West over the SEC? I don't know. Is it maybe they're promising, hey, you come to Sac State, not only will you get paid, but you'll also be the guy. Would you rather come to Sac State, get paid, and be the guy, or go to LSU, Ole Miss, and be the guy? Get paid, but not necessarily be the guy. You're going to be battling with a bunch of other 5 stars, 4 stars at LSU, Ole Miss for a position. At Sac State, you are going to be the 4-star that we got here. You're going to be the top recruit here. You're going to be the guy. Now, obviously, everybody who's played at college knows it doesn't matter what your rank was. It doesn't matter where you were slotted, where you got recruited, what type of offer you're on. If you're a walk-on, if you're a full-ride scholarship guy, if you're a books guy, it doesn't matter. Once you enter that door, it does not matter. But to these high school kids, they eat that stuff up. Hey, you're going to be the guy when you get here. You're going to be the number 1 guy. We're going to put you. And, a lot of coaches, sometimes coaches do live up to that. But a lot of times, you can't just promise a guy. And I don't know if that's what they're doing. I'm not necessarily saying I don't know what they're doing. That's why I'm questioning, how are they getting all these recruits to go to Sac State? It has to be something, man. I think part of it is the money. I think the main thing is the money, because somebody close to me mentioned that you don't beat out an LSU or Ole Miss without big time money being involved. LSU, North Carolina, Ole Miss, they have money, and they are definitely putting that money in front of these recruits, letting them know, hey, you come here, you're going to get this, this, and that. We have all this money. We have this guy's making this. They're going to get money if they go to the SEC. At Big Sky currently, Sac State, they don't, I don't know what they're promising these guys. I don't know what their NIL deals look like. I'd love to talk to some of the players at Sac State and see, like, yo, like, what are they getting you guys? What are they doing for you guys that's getting you guys to recruit to them over big-time universities? I mean, I think it just shows that Brennan Marion is a hell of a recruiter. They got this guy to commit on, I think it was 4th of July when he committed. But just amazing. He has been dominating in recruiting. Is it the money? Is it Coach Marion? Is it the future? I think it might be a combination of them all. I think Coach Marion, obviously, as we've seen, is a really good recruiter. I think they do have money at Sac State, which they have been trying to tell people about and show people all off season. But then I think it also is the future. Like, you know, look here. You got a good university. We're building a new stadium. We got all of these committed funds. I mean, we got money. We're gonna have the infrastructure, and then we're gonna be moving up. We're either gonna be FBS independent or we're gonna be the Pac-12 Mountain West. That's what they believe at Sac State. And I mean, as a recruit, when they're throwing the money, when they're throwing the opportunity at you, how can you turn it down? I mean, I wouldn't. I don't know. So, well done for Sac State. I mean, I think Sac State not only is putting Sac State on the map, they're putting the West Coast on the map. They're also putting the Big Sky on the map as a reaction to what they've been doing this offseason. Sac State is now putting the Big Sky on the map. So now I think, you know, the Big Sky is going to get more plays. The Big Sky is going to get more people paying attention to what's going on in the Big Sky. Some of those televised games that they play are going to have more viewership because what Sac State has been doing. I think in particular that South Dakota State game is going to be very highly viewed, particularly by a lot of FCS fans who want to hate watch Sac State. I'm going to be watching for the love of the game, and obviously I'm going to break that game down. I just want to see what they got going on at Sac State. So you guys let me know what you guys think about the recruiting at Sac State. What do you guys think about them being able to pull off this stunner, getting Xavier McDonald, the number 58 recruit in the ESPN 300? They beat out LSU, North Carolina, and Ole Miss to get Xavier McDonald. And they have currently the number 1 recruiting class in the Big Sky. I would venture to guess that they have the number 1 recruiting class in the FCS, and they have the number 56 recruiting class in the country. So you guys let me know down below what you guys think about Sac State and the recruiting wins. What do you guys think this is going to mean for the future of Sac State? What do you guys think this means in the current, present day Sac State landscape? You guys let me know down below, and I will move on. Okay. I want to thank you guys so much for tapping into the channel. I want to thank you guys for viewing my channel. I want to thank you guys for supporting. Remember, I will not be dropping a video next week. I am getting married on Saturday next week, so this will be my last video for until 2 weeks from this Tuesday. I'll be dropping another video. So I'll see you guys. That'll be right before the Big Sky Media Day, right around that time. So I want to thank you guys for tapping in. Please make sure you guys hit the like button. Please make sure you guys hit the subscribe. Please make sure you guys leave me a comment down below. Let me know if there's any topics that you guys would like me to cover in my videos. If there's a breakdown, a player you guys want me to look at, if there's a game that you guys want me to go back and break down, you guys can let me know that in the comments. I will do that for you. I want to thank you guys for the support. Thank you guys. I appreciate you guys so much for showing me love and supporting me and Akem'S Analysis, as well as Skyline Sports. You guys can always catch my videos, my audio on the Skyline Sport Big Sky Breakdown on Skyline Sports Podcast Network. You guys can catch all my audio on there. Even when the season begins, you guys can catch Akem'S Analysis audio on there. So go support that way as well. If you guys are driving, if you guys are on a run, and you guys want to listen to my videos that way, you guys can do that. But thank you guys for tuning in. I will catch you guys in 2 weeks. Leave me a comment, subscribe, like the video as always. I'll catch you guys next time. See you later.